Be Bad and Brandon.
Recognize you as Team Evil Genius. Now, what we like to do to start off with is a little bit of an intro about yourself, where we just hand over the platform to you. We give you a rough guide of about 21 words to use how you want. To tell us a little bit about you, so the viewers who don't know you, which would be no one, because you're very, very, very popular. Just a little bit more about you. So, Broderick, the floor is yours. 21 words.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I despise talking about myself. This should be easier than it seems. Well, the moniker that I've been assigned, and by the way, I did not take it personally, is Evil Genius. And my company, my business is Evil Genius Sports Performance. Evil, malevolent, not conventional is literally the definition. Genius, possessing exceptional skills or traits, particularly in the arts and sciences. It turns out, though I did not choose that for myself, it fits rather perfectly. I am truly 100% malevolent and non-conventional, and it turns out I'm actually pretty fucking good at this shit. So Evil Genius works. Sports, I think everyone has a vague understanding of what that is, and performance is what I do. I coach people for very high levels of sports performance, and I do so through clever application of intellect with less than ethical means. That's me.
I like that little spin-off on the end, that less than ethical means. Like, I think it's I think by what you're doing is actually providing a lot of you're giving people a pathway, I believe, to taking something that may not necessarily be looked at as ethical in terms of sports performance and what that could encompass, but layering over it with some science, and it's actually delivering people in a healthier way to get to a point where they're usually deemed very unhealthy.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know where this conversation's intending to go. I have no idea what you have in mind, but
we never have a plan.
You know, I pursued, intellectually and both in education and in my own personal desires. I pursued sciences, the life sciences specifically, degree in biology, minor degree in chemistry, a lifetime application in medical sciences, etc. However, I also possess a particularly high interest in language, and not just language, because language is obviously relevant to communicate, but language is also the gateway to precision in communication. Using the right word, literally, not that I for a moment feel that I'm a poet. I'm not. But what makes poetry so powerful is the word selection. It says exactly what the author intends it to say, and therefore it conveys exactly their thought, concept, intimation, etc. I try very hard to use that same concept when I discuss science. And the first thing I would take issue with what you said, which, by the way, is going to be the theme of things. That's what I fucking do, is take issue with shit. You use the word health or healthy. I decry that immediately. Yeah. There is no such thing as a healthy way to take drugs. Okay, let's just get that out of our system. There's no healthy version of drug abuse. Zero. What there is potentially less destructive modalities. Okay, I'm in favor of that, and I tend to promote that sort of thing. But this idea, again, not to just go laterally and shit on an entirely separate group of idiots, but there's the longevity crowd. Oh, I take testosterone and metformin for longevity. Newsflash, numbnuts, drug use not healthy.
I was just like, I'm really glad that I love that there's no limit to yourself, Broderick, and I just love how you're so direct, and it's just brilliant that we got the good rant straight away. I love it. But mate, I know, because I'm sure Johnny and you've consulted with Broderick before on some client stuff.
Yeah, we have, and also a bit of self-learning as well. Just to, I guess for me,
because I don't have much exposure in that side of the world, at least a while ago. It was just interesting to have that chat with Broderick around what people are doing and what's out there in this world. So as a coach, you can have a better understanding of everything, which is good.
Absolutely. I think, as you know, Broderick is, from what I understand, you know, education and in promoting the ideas and ideologies that you have is a big part of what you do. And I'm very curious, like, how did it all begin? Like, how did you end up in this position, being, I guess, positioned as the guy to go to when it comes to sports performance drug use?
There's kind of, not kind of, there's blatantly, I hate it when people say that. There's kind of, or they say that, you know, because it is what it is and you don't know. So I won't say those things. That annoys the shit out of me. I got to check myself. The reality is there was two very distinct paths or kind of pivots that got me to where I am specifically. As far as the whole overarching coaching thing, I was a child prodigy, both intellectually, to be fair, and athletically. When I use the word athletically very, very loosely and very, very generously to myself. I was an adolescent bodybuilder. I started training when I was 10, and I trained with the mindset that I'm going to be a world-class bodybuilder. And admittedly, I was a very good teenage bodybuilder. Was one of the top 10 in the United States as a teenager. I was very good. But because of my intellect and to be fair, just weird, dumb luck, I happened to rub shoulders with the echelons, literally the toppest tier that exists. Dr. Fred Hatfield, Thomas Stephen Platts, the guy who was at the time the editor of Muscle and Fitness magazine, Tom Dieter. Some real high tier individuals. Wow. And they recognize something. I don't want to be so bold as to be like, oh, they thought I was like the second coming of, Arnold. No, that's foolish. But they clearly saw tools. And they were very, very good, kind, and intelligent people. And they helped me by virtue of being really, really ruthlessly hard on me.
Oh, wow.
Dr. Fred Hatfield basically never said a kind word to me until like a few years before he died. But because of him, I pursued paths intellectually that I would have never dreamed of. Also, having witnessed Tom Platts training in person, watching Bernal Fox train in person, these things had impressions and also did something to me that, because my intellectual processes were different than maybe the other bobblehead, bro science, instead of thinking I was getting answers like, oh, that's how you train, or oh, that's what you do, it actually gave me questions. Why does he do that? What are the consequences of that? And so instead of getting a book full of answers, I got books and books and books and books, I don't jest, full of questions.
Oh, wow.
So then I became this sort of conduit between, I saw pro bodybuilder X, Y, or Z do this. And then later I happened to be in the room with, PhD laureate, Dr. Mike Stone, and I could break out my book and go, so-and-so does this. Do you know why? And then we would have an intellectual conversation. And I mean, and by the way, this is taking place in my teenage years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So then that parlayed into this weird set of skills where I was able to rub shoulders with the echelons of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
But I was also able to rub shoulders with the echelons of analytical, science.
Yeah.
So then when I turn up in university, which, by the way, I did, almost exclusively at the behest of people like Dr. Fred Hatfield. I really wasn't in any way, shape, or form then or now university material. But because of, again, their ruthless nurturing, I made myself that. I'm like, fuck it, I'll do it. You know?
Nice.
So I did. And in university, and by the way, I was a horrible student. I hated my environment. I despised it in every way. When I say I despise it, I want you to have an image of the level of
disgust.
No, disgust is something you wear, like disgust is something you wear like a bad smell. You just pull away a little bit and make a face. No, I had 100% deep-seated loathing. I sat in the back of the room and gripped the edge of the desk to the point of bending the metal and sweat it. I would just sweat and just stare at them and just hate. I envisioned raindrops of hate falling from the heavens and splashing off. I hated them. In my mind, every single class was a bukkake of hate. It was like watching a bad German porn every day. I hated them. I need you to understand what I mean when I say that.
Was there any specific lecturers that you hated more, or it was all even across the board?
Well, actually, I'm being mildly disingenuous. I had two professors in all of my 3.5 years of university. I had two professors that I actually adored. They were incredible, intelligent, wonderful, and they single-handedly counterbalanced the lever of justice and allowed me to survive. So I did have two professors, one in genetics and one in chemistry, that made everything worth the trouble. But elsewise, despised it. So I want you to understand what I put myself through to live up to the expectations that were placed upon me. That's important. I don't think most people understand what real commitment is, and I'm not trying to self-adulate, but literally, I don't think most people understand what real commitment is. To get up and go to a place that you just view as the worst place that you could possibly be. And then pay money to do it. That's a level of commitment most people don't know. So anyway.
Did you despise the institution of university based on the fact that it was you found it confining?
No, it's funny. I wish I had words that really described the situation, but the reality is most of my hatred and loathing of it was actually my own fault. In that I had developed an adolescent fantasy, is the only word I can really think to describe it, of what university was going to be like. I lived in a really shitty corner of the world, very depressed, blue collar working America in the not undifferent than today's Joe Biden environment. I grew up in the Jimmy Carter era, which was just depression and not a good hand dealt to the working class, and therefore working class areas were particularly problematic. So I lived in a very tired, downtrodden, intellectually bereft corner of the world, and I suffered through high school. But all the while, I guess as part of some sort of defense mechanism to the serfdom I was living through, I built up this mental image that university was going to be, and then I had this idyllic, a Greek Parthenon with people and grapes and wine, and just having these amazing, deistic, conversations about the origins of everything, and it was going to be so intellectually stimulating. And then I got there, and it was just like little old, angry, pathetic little Jewish people that knew nothing about the world beyond the edge of their fucking nose. And I just hated it. It was so disappointing that it made me ill. It seriously, it was bad. Just bad.
Right. Far out.
So anyway, the whole point of that rant was to get to this part. The saving grace of university was sort of by dumb luck, sort of by grace of a good decision. It was predicated on a bad decision. Let's not go into that. But by a series of graceful conveniences, the university in which I went to had an extraordinary sports performance or human performance laboratory. They had the absolute, literally the world around, the most advanced equipment available on planet Earth. Also happened to be a particularly strong school in scholastic athletics. So here I am, an accomplished bodybuilder with connections to the highest level of sports, thrust into an environment with wildly fascinating and powerful tools and guinea pigs of all sorts, desperate for, for being, taught, if you will.
Yeah.
And so once again, by serendipitous means, I wound up filling the same role. I became the conduit because I was an athlete of sorts. I could speak to the athletes in a language that they could understand. But in the same breath, I could turn and speak to the coaches, the professors, the chemists, the etc. in a language that they understood. And so I became indispensable in getting information both directions, down to the athletes and up to the intellects.
Yeah, right.
And so my coaching was kind of forced on me in that I was kind of not forced, but I very volitionally fell into a position where that's just what I did. Like, it was just necessary. And so, again, realizing probably a little later than I should have, probably a little boneheaded, but realizing along the way that, hey, I'm actually better at this coaching intellectual stuff than I even am as an athlete.
Wow.
I just slowly moved that way. So my life went that way, in terms of the coaching thing, just because I kind of was like wedged into it. And then the final iteration that I'm in today as the kind of, lecturer, membership-based website kind of thing, that actually came about because of tragedy. I don't even know if you guys know this. I don't make a big deal about it for a lot of reasons. One, because I sincerely don't really give a fuck that people, know things. And then secondly, I don't like to martyr myself. But moral of the story, December 9th, 2013, I was involved in a crippling accident. I broke every bone in both my feet. I was told straight away in the emergency room, like, get your mind around the fact that you're probably never going to walk again. You're certainly not going to lift weights ever again.
Fuck.
Deal with that.
Wow.
And I spent 9 months in a wheelchair. Horrible. Don't want to go into details. Also, partly because I can't go into details because I was so anesthetized on opioids. I literally, there's like 3-ish months of my life that I don't remember.
Jesus.
Fuck.
So anyway, the moral of the story is I went from being a world-class powerlifter to a cripple in 24 hours.
Fuck.
Jesus.
And that then required me developing an entirely new approach to getting out of bed and putting my socks on, much less figuring out how to fucking make a living.
Yeah.
And through some good coaching from friends, some good help, my wife, some good luck, I parlayed my knowledge in a different direction and started talking to a device, and the rest is the rest.
Yeah. Wow. I love that you created opportunity out of tragedy. Like, man, that would have been absolutely hectic. Cause like, you're being modest there, I think by saying a world class, like you were exceptional from memory, mate. Like I think there was a 800-pound squat in there. Yeah.
I squatted 800 pounds at a shade under 220 in a belt and knee wrap in front of in front of international judges, not in some backyard garden variety bullshit meet. I did that on the world stage.
Fucking hell. And just for the Australian listeners here, 220, if I'm not mistaken, is about 100 kegs over here, under 100.
Yeah, I did it specifically at 99. I weighed in at 99.
Holy
and I
fuck.
Did, what is that?
363 kilos.
360, yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck.
That is insane.
Jesus.
Not that I even. It's interesting you would bring it up because not that I even track that sort of thing, but it was brought to my attention by somebody else entirely that I'm still listed in the top 20 all time raw squats. And I haven't done that since, I think that was 2006 or 2007, which I did
Wow.
that. So give you an idea, where that puts me. And I don't even feel that I was a particularly good bench presser, and my bench press is still ranked in the top something.
That was my next question, because for those who don't know, you've got fucking tree trunks for arms and a fucking barrel chest. What was the biggest bench there?
Well, there's two answers to that, kind of like there always is. I topped out at double body weight in every fucking weight class I ever lifted in. I started at 130. I started at 132, and I topped out at a double body weight, and I finished at 100 kilos, and I topped out at a double body weight of 200 kilos.
Fucking hell.
Now, the catch is why I said there's always two answers. I only quote full meat lifts. That 200 kilos was in a meet after having squatted 300 plus, real deal. In the gym, now admittedly, good technique, good bench, but in the gym, with no squat, etc., I have done, what have I done? I have done a shade under 500 pounds. So what's that, 230?
Yeah, 227 and a half, 230. Fuck me, dead.
Yeah, so let's call it 225. I've done in the gym,
Mate, and those numbers, they were unreal, and at a time when there was probably maybe only a handful of people doing that too, and it's really positioned you as a pioneer of strength and powerlifting. And now the
funny part, I actually just had a conversation. It's funny you're hitting all the high points. It's funny, now it's funny how time becomes an interesting filter. You look back now and everybody's like, wow, you were such a trendsetter, you were that was amazing. And then the reality is, as I was living it, I was raw lifting for two reasons and two reasons only. One, I was a dick, and I just was like, I'm not doing it. Fuck you. I'm doing this other thing. And two, because I was shit poor. I didn't have $1,000 to buy a crazy triple ply, whatever bucks. So between economy and cockiness, I wound up being this trendsetter, and I wasn't. I was just a dick.
Oh, mate, you're a dick that set some fucking insatiable pathways for people to follow. What you're doing is incredible now, and the lecturing side and the website membership base that you created is exceptional. It's taken you all around the world, if I'm not mistaken. We were just talking before we hit record. You're in China and Tokyo.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Do you enjoy the travel side of things that come with what you get to do?
No. It's weird. I'm very weird. I'm obviously big newsflash. I'm weird. Who knew? It's the sort of thing where I like it on paper. I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. That's a great idea. And as soon as the ink's dry, I have a panic attack and I freak out. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to go to wherever. And then it's a nightmare. And then when I get there and deal with, let's say, for instance, I have a great time and we mesh and it's wonderful. But the actual from ink drying to arriving on site, I'm a disaster. I hate it. I'm fucking literally, I have panic attacks. I'm legitimately OCD. And when I don't have my shit, I lose my shit. I'll give you an example of just how bad it is. Rodin Dubois, the Dubois method in Sydney. Okay, he facilitated, my coming to Sydney specifically the first time, and lovely guy, treated me like a king. Everything. So he says, when do you want to work out? And I'm like, I squat at noon on Monday. Great. So he puts it right on the day plan, 11:30, arrive at such and such gym. Boom. So I have my shoes, my squat shoes in one hand and my belt in the other, and I'm walking up to the door of the gym, and I realized I'm in Australia. And then I realized noon Monday in Australia is 10 p.m. Sunday in the United States. So I'm walking in a circle in the street in Redfern, Australia, like fucking Rain Man, mumbling to myself, yeah, it's not Monday. It's definitely not Monday. Yeah. And I'm walking in a fucking circle until I had a meltdown. I dropped my shoes and belt in the middle of the street and I walked off.
Fuck.
They found me like an hour later at some coffee shop, just like looking out the window like a scared child.
Fuck, bro.
Fuck.
Did you get your shoes back?
No, like every disaster and shitstorm in my life, my wife came behind me and cleaned it up. So yeah, 100%. But just to give you an idea of how incredibly ineffectual I am as a human.
Fuck.
I sit here at my desk in front of this cool backdrop and talk like a fucking champ to the cell phone.
Yep.
Yeah, keep in mind, I'm the guy that can't go to a local coffee shop without getting thrown out. I'm not a workable human being.
Wow, that's insane. I mean, like,
I did get barred from life from the local Starbucks.
Really?
Not that that's a tragedy, but I did do that.
And what did you do to do that? Can we ask?
I was exposed for not actually being hearing impaired.
Oh.
I faked being hearing impaired so I didn't have to fucking talk to him. I'd just go in there with $2 and I would just lay him on the thing and point to the coffee.
That's the fucking best thing I've heard.
Just so I didn't have to engage in their benign fucking bobblehead fucking conversation.
To shift gears on that story, which is now possibly one of my favorite stories I've ever heard. It's put you in a position, though, all these characteristics of you, as I said before, as being like someone that's looked to constantly for advice and information, sports performance, and particularly PED use. Now, your pathway, I'm assuming, so I'd love to hear, but the pathway into raw lifting, did you find yourself, or bodybuilding, did it take you down that pathway of taking performance enhancers? Did it does it intrigue you more than to look into why we use them, how they function?
Well, let's start again at the very beginning. And quite literally, this conversation begins at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Somewhere around 1977, give or take, I would have been 6-ish years old. I happened to be at my grandmother's home, which, as weird as this sounds, being American, was the only place I was exposed to television. In my own home, we actually had no television. Mm. So going to my grandmother's was quite the event because I got to sit in front of the TV. Was allowed to sit in front of the TV. It was turned on, ta-da, moving pictures. Oh, this is exciting. I happened to see a TV show called The Wide World of Sports. It was sort of the prototype to ESPN today, like SportsCenter. What it was clips of kind of iconic sporting events, the first 4-minute mile, this thing, that thing, a famous boxing knockout. And it was put together like a montage format as entertainment. The episode I happened to see was the 1972 Olympic Games when Vasily Alexia, Ken Patera, and Serge Redding all pressed 500 pounds over their head.
Fuck.
So I'm sitting there, little kid, no idea that weightlifting was even a thing. I didn't even, literally, prior to that, I was not aware that it was the thing. And I see it. And I literally ran during the commercial and grabbed all the adults in the house. And I was like, what's that? What's going on? And they would, they tell me, well, these people are professional weightlifters. And I'm like, full stop. Profession. This is their job? And they're like, well, it's the Olympics. I don't think they're getting paid, but they do this full time. And I'm like, this is a job. Like, you can go to a place and lift weights and build muscles, and it's a job. And I'm like, that's my fucking job. I'm like, that's what I'm doing. You can write it down. And everybody in the room's like, yeah, oh, that's funny, kid. Pat me on the head, like, oh, watch your TV. They go in the other room and smoke a pack of Marlboro. Every day of my life from that moment on, whatever adult was closest to me, I would ask, can I go to the gym? Can I lift weights? Where do these weights live? Like, when can I start my job? Like every day. And when it, they thought, a week, a month, a year, it'll go away. It didn't.
Yeah, right.
Christmas Day, 1981, I was precisely 10 years and a month and a few weeks old. I got a gift certificate to a gym in my stocking. Christmas Day, 1981, I take this fucking receipt out of my Christmas stocking and run down the goddamn street without shoes on, by the way, in the fucking snow to the gym. Now, every adult in the house told me, like, it's Christmas Day. Nobody's going to be at the gym. Like, grow up, kid. What's wrong with you? Weird coincidence. The owner of the gym and his friends were in there squatting. I'm beating on the door, waving his fucking ticket. He lets me in. I squatted. Christmas Day, 1981. Here's where the relevance to the story goes. I had never had a barbell on my back. I had never done a fucking squat. I understood the concept, of course, at this point. I get into the squat rack. I unrack the bar. I step back. There's a poster, kind of askew. It wasn't even on the wall square, of Ken Patera in the bottom position, in a rack position of a front squat. Those big, if you may even know the picture, kind of big belly, big aviator sunglasses on, bottom position with seriously 180 kilos in the bottom position. The poster was held to the wall with the tips of 18 gauge cattle syringes. So basically, my first day on the job, I became aware of the tools of the trade. Now, admittedly, I didn't use drugs until I was 16 years old, which still is kind of frighteningly young to most people. But my point is, first day on the job, no illusions. Poster on the wall with syringe tips, and squat until you fucking fall the fuck down and can't get up again. So I had an interesting path through this.
Fuck.
That's a fucking education.
What a fucking gym to start at.
Yeah.
That is a fucking education.
You being Australian, this may not mean much to you, but it was southeastern Pennsylvania, which is steel and coal country. And it was an Olympic lifting gym. So it was just a hardcore, blue-collar, tough guy kind of fucking environment. And there's no illusions in a place like that. There just isn't.
That's insane. That's an incredible story. Like, I love that that's your first exposure to that. Like, that's at 10 years old.
Yeah.
You're still a child.
Yeah. And, admittedly, a skewed one, a goofy one. Like, I was not normal even then. I don't want to, I don't want people to think like, oh, the sport of bodybuilding or powerlifting or Olympic lifting, subverted me. No, I was somewhat pre-subverted. Didn't truly. I came from a household of neglect and abuse, and again, I don't want to make a big deal about it, but it just kind of all fell together.
Yeah.
Now, something you asked is, was I interested in the mechanics? The answer is yes. The answer is yes for a bunch of reasons. One, I suspect this is probably true of Australia, the UK, and everywhere else, but the world has changed a lot. I mean, that part's obvious, of course, but particularly in the realm of drugs, in the 70s, which this was, the late 70s and early 80s, 1981, there was a filtering mechanism in the actual gym environment itself. You couldn't just jump online and buy some Bitcoin and have China send you a box of fucking drugs. There was this filtering mechanism where you had to be somebody worth getting drugs.
Yeah, right.
You had to befriend and become. You had to enter the awareness of the person with the drugs. The guy with the drugs wasn't out on the corner like selling fucking pretzels. Just like, oh, you need some drugs. It was a hush hush thing, and you didn't get to have the drug conversation until the drug guy thought you were ready for that conversation.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
And so
wow.
from age 10 to age 16 was literally busting my balls day and night to get to the big table.
Yeah.
You know, being permitted to even enter the drug conversation meant you were fucking grown up.
Fucking
You know?
hell.
When did you become aware of the big table existing, bro?
100%. I knew day one. I'm not even a joke. I knew from day one, like, holy shit, I have, you know, this is like union work. I have flights and flights and flights to wade my way through to get to the big table. Like you know, I'm not even hired yet, and I'm in management.
Yep.
Right.
You know, and maybe another child wouldn't have understood that. I don't know. I don't want to speak for others, but I understood that instantly. And I immediately in my mind went, I'm in. I'm in. Like, there's, you know, I've chosen wisely.
Yeah.
And then I ground, like literally just every fucking day. Like, you know, what are we doing today? Oh, we're deadlifting. All right, fine. Watch this. And every single day. Yeah, so I basically immediately understood the magnitude and to some degree the time scale of the project I was engaging in, and I was committed. And you know, every single day I would show up, basically take my ass whooping, and then ask as much as I could get away with. You know, when did you start taking drugs? Or, you know, what are you taking? Or, you know, what do you think that guy's doing? And point to the picture on the wall, and just any little kernel I could get. And I filed it away so that when my talk came, I wasn't an idiot.
Yeah.
And
sweet.
That's literally how it started. So then they would give me these little crumbs, and then I would run home with crumbs, and I'd try to turn the crumbs into a cake.
Yeah.
I would go home, and then literally, not an exaggeration, I would have the school bus drop me off at the public library, and I would go in the public library, and you know, literally, like, just go to the librarian with words. I have words. I need book with these words.
Wow.
You know, and then do my best to make those words make sense.
Yeah.
So, again, a lot of my pursuit of intellectual information was wholly self-centered. It was wholly about, I want this shit. Coincidentally, 30 years, 40 years later, it turns out that it's valuable to lots of people. But the truth is, I didn't start out with, like, I'm going to figure out how to be the best drug coach in the world.
Yeah.
No. One, I don't know if I am the best in the world. And two, that never entered my mind. All I wanted to know is what I need to know.
Yeah.
This path of inquisitory, like constantly asking why, has led you to some really big heights, though, in the industry. It's insane.
Was there much information around at the time for you to find, bro, when you were going to the public library?
Well, again, you have to put that in context. When you're a 10-year-old imbecile with no knowledge, yes, there was gobs of knowledge. You know, there was Grey's Anatomy. There was, you know, a book of nursing terms and medical terminology. There was, you know, a book about protein. There was stuff. I mean, there was gobs of knowledge. Now, was any of that knowledge about steroids? Like 4 random sentences about cattle farming in Montana. But it was there, and it was interesting. And that got me thinking, like, well, there seems to be drugs in veterinary medicine. Maybe I should start looking there. And next thing you know, I'm subscribing to veterinary medicine catalogs. And, you know, so, you know, no, there wasn't much information, but considering my head was completely empty, there was a lot to be learned. And the painful truth, and I still face this to this day, every single day I wake up with a kind of a pain in my chest that you might immediately think was, you know, atherosclerosis or, you know, left ventricular hypertrophy, but it's actually the daunting fucking feeling that every single morning I wake up and I realize, like, I know 1/10 of what I wanted to know by now. Like, I I had this envision that like by age 50, I would have godlike powers. I would know everything. I envisioned like at the, I'm gonna be able to make steroids from air. And here I am at age 50, and like every single day I wake up and I'm like, fuck, do you have any idea how much shit I don't know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know where to start on the list. I look at the list and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this list is taller than I am of things that I need to figure out yesterday.
Yeah, fuck.
It's horrifying.
I was gonna say, imagine with the change in timeline as we get further down, there's more stuff out there too, right? And then more knowledge about everything.
Yeah, not only my awareness of what's going on is expanding, but the list of shit that's going on is expanding.
Yeah.
Far out. That is like, it's when you pose it like that, it's actually quite, it's just blows my mind, because I look at you, I'm like, this guy is the god of PEDUs. Like, he knows everything, but then you're saying like, oh fuck, it's, a tenth. Like, that just shows how much there is still to learn.
I can't even begin to intimate to you like how inadequate I feel every minute of the day. Like, I just the shit I don't know, I would say keeps me awake at night, but I'm an insomniac, so it makes me pace at.
So where's the modern day library for you now that you're going to? Who is the person you're going to with these words and saying, what are these words? Where are the books for it now? What do you do now for your research and education?
Well, that's actually the only part of my day that makes me smile. So thank you for asking that question, because it genuinely brings a little bit of a grin to my face. The unintended consequence of getting as commercial as I've gotten, which I never wanted to do, and I resisted as hard as I could. But the unintended consequence has been people will take my calls now. I'm no longer the annoying 10-year-old kid. I'm now an industry expert. So when I cold call, unsolicited, a PhD or a chemistry professor at X, Y, or Z university, they take my call.
Wow.
So my black book is thick.
Yeah.
And that makes me smile. Now, the catch is those people don't like their time wasted. So I become incredibly self-conscious, and I come up with the question. I want to know that. That's my question. And then I spend days or weeks, or in some cases even years, making the question so perfect that they will answer it.
Yeah.
Or that they can answer it. Or if they can't answer it, they're so intrigued and or impressed by it that they'll find an answer.
Yeah.
So again, it still comes down to the frettering and fiddling and precision, the poetry of the words. But the cheese at the end of the maze is then somebody fucking smart hears the words, and it goes in their head, and it bounces around, and then what comes out is awesomeness.
Yeah. That's incredible, and I love the way you articulate everything. Like, it is, you can tell that you're just so passionate about what you do, and it's driven by this need to know. To switch gears a little bit, because I do know that PED use is becoming incredibly more common. Like, and what are some common mistakes that you come across a lot of that people can simply avoid just by educating themselves?
I can be very general, but I can't be very specific, because the reality is the context makes everything. I can lay out, for instance, I will in a second, what I find to be the number one most common problem. However, that can also be the uncommon solution to some really niche problems.
Yeah.
So it's never just like this unilateral, that like throw down the hammer and like everyone takes too much testosterone. there's always going to be that one guy in the background, but I do it for this reason. And then you have to go, all right, that's a good reason. You go in the other room. I'll talk to you later. Everyone else takes too much testosterone. And then, then one person's going to have some other, but what about? So in a general sense, the 1980s and 90s led to testosterone being lower in cost and higher in popularity. That has not done the world a favor in the big picture. By and large, if you look at the problems people get, males, from steroid use, it's usually things that you could tie back to overuse of testosterone, elevated estrogen, acne problems, skewed lipid profile, red blood cell count. Pretty much the hit list of things that people run into are largely found in that center column, testosterone and its cousins kind of thing. So, if I had to throw out a kind of a blanket, 85% of the problems I see come from not dosage, but the selection of what that dosage is, i.e. testosterone.
Yeah, right. Because from my understanding is and what I've come to you a lot about is matching the drugs used to each training cycle.
Correct.
And
right
now,
tool for the right job.
Yeah, exactly. It's no different than a builder using a hammer to hammer in a nail instead of a fucking spanner.
The analogy, if you will, or metaphor that I use to explain that is if you personally wrote a training program for me, and it's, do these exercises on this day, and the split and the exercises and the rep range and the tempo, I could take that training program and hold it up to you and I go, why are we doing this? Why hack squats? And being a good coach, you would immediately, reflexively have an answer. You're doing hack squats because you have a long femur and barbell squats are going to be problematic, or you have a back injury and we're trying to avoid that, or we don't want to load your back so that we can do deadlifts later in the week. You would have an answer. You would have a logical underpinning for choosing that exercise. Why wouldn't you have exactly the same thing for choosing a drug? Is the purpose of that drug on that paper? What is it bringing to the table that some other drug will not? If you can't answer it in that fashion, you're making shit up.
And I feel that's where a lot of especially as being a young male, that's the trap we fell into. It's you just did whatever the biggest guy in the gym was telling you, because there was no education around it. It was just I'm going to take some tests and I'm going to take some Boldenone because that's what the biggest guy said. But and logically, I didn't really understand that's probably not the best cycle for me in that phase of training that I was doing.
Correct. And it gets even worse, especially in, areas, Australia, maybe rural areas, a lot of times drug use is basically predicated on, this is what I can get. I can get these things. I understand that and I accept that, but that's not the world I live in. I have, out of maybe snobbery, maybe disgust, maybe just plain old fashioned, mental illness, I don't concern myself with that. I live in a world where I want very specific outcomes. You as an athlete come to me and you say, this is what I want to do. I want 5 kilos more muscle, 2 kilos less muscle or less body fat. I want this much force production. I want it in this time frame, and here's my budget. And then I figure out how to do it. That's where I live. I don't live in the, I want to get big, bro. Yeah, go fuck yourself. Put on a big jacket. I don't care. Get out of my sight.
I love that
jacket.
Fucking that's how to this day and age, if we want those specific outcomes, and people are walking through our doors as coaches going, I want to be this strong at this date for this comp, but they're not necessarily prepared to then listen to what you have to say when it comes to drug use, because they're like, no, I've got that covered.
Yeah, that's when you have to call bullshit. You're like,
yeah,
really? Yeah.
It's fucking insane. Now, one more question, because I know it's a big topic these days, especially in the strength circles, and it's female drug use, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, but, no, it's delicious.
But similar sort of answer specifically to females, like, is there something that they can take away from this in a very general sense, and I know context is everything, that you can give them advice on when pursuing drugs? Because you know, my first thought when a female athlete comes to me and says that they are looking to enhance their performance down the PED route, is I'm very big on saying, look, here is the associated risks. Make sure you're okay with that before you head down this journey.
Yes, and I sincerely believe preparing someone mentally, emotionally, and just expectationally is everything. I 100%. If I had to kind of put my top level item on this is probably where women go wrong, I would say it's two things, and I'm not sure which one's first and which one's second. Probably depends on the day you ask me. But first, women fall into the male trap, if you will, in that they forget that there is two very separate, extricable, but yet deeply connected concepts here. There is dosage, which has an impact, but duration is the other real big mover. For instance, this is an incredibly shameful example, but a 10-year-old, exogenous, an androgynous template of a little person, a 10-year-old boy, over the course of the next 10 years becomes a man. And it's not from massive doses of testosterone. It's from a constant 10-year exposure to modest doses of testosterone. The entire morphology of a creature can be changed from one thing to another from duration, not dosage. So the relevance to women is they tend to look at the dosage value as, I'm being safe, I'm only taking 20 milligrams a day. But then they'll do that for 20 weeks.
Right.
And they forget that area under curve, that's way more exposure than is appropriate for them. Many times, that same individual could do twice the dosage for a third of the time, twice, and get more results with less total exposure to drug.
That's a very, very good point. And the analogy used is that duration aspect, which is constantly 100%. Overlooked.
Yes, it is. So I would say that's probably my number one concept is women fail to consider the manipulation of dosage and duration. And then the other is women also tend to fail to value non-steroidal modalities. There are loads of other performance-enhancing drugs besides just fucking stuffing Anavar in your pile. There's lots of options. There's insulin, there's growth hormone, there's metformin, there's thyroid. There's lots of things that can build muscle and improve performance that don't grow a penis and a mustache.
It's so true, though.
Oh, dear.
I love that. I love it.
Oh, dear.
But it's so true because it's
not that there's anything wrong with that.
But you make a good point. People are so quick to just go straight to anabolic steroids as the only way to perform or enhance performance without even before that ticking off things on a micro level of optimizing sleep and nutrition, but they're quick just to jump to that. Like it's insane. And then even between those two things, like there's one extreme and the other extreme. In the middle, as you said, there's so many things that won't have those what can be looked at as negative side effects long term. So, and that brings me back to the point that I guess I was making at the start. There is a safer, let's use the word safer, way to look at and use these drugs without those negative side effects. Like, and I think a job is to negate them.
Well, let me throw out yet another obfuscation to the conversation. Again, being that I am who I am, and my job basically is to take issue. That seems to be my role in the world. I will take issue with what you just said, in that you use the word side effect. Mm-hmm. Very common, very accepted word. You'll hear it from medical professionals. You'll hear it from the guy at the, you'll hear it from the apothecary, the pharmacist, whatever, we're chemists, wherever you live in the world. That guy in the white coat behind the counter, you'll hear about side effects. The reality is that's a lie. That's a really, really bad word. It doesn't actually mean anything. Drugs have effects. Some of the effects are desired. Some of the effects are not desired. But they are effects.
Yeah.
Drugs have effects. And let me illustrate that one level even further. Depending on where you're standing, what is the effect and what is the undesirable effect can be wildly different. Yeah. For instance, if you were the unfortunate individual female who had estrogen-dependent breast cancer, you might take Masteron to affect an improvement in your health and treat the cancer. The side effect, the unwanted effect, would be muscle mass, masculinization, changes in temperament. Whereas if you were a CrossFitter, you might take Masteron for the masculinization, the muscle mass, and the changes in temperament. So what's the effect and what's the undesired effect depends entirely on who you are and what you're fucking dying of. If you're dying of smallness or you're dying of cancer, you have two different views on the fucking world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love, and this is why I love chatting to you personally, is because you challenge the thinking of everyone to see it from another perspective. And I think that is exactly what the industry needs.
Funny you would say that. I have very few intellectual heroes in the world, but one I actually have, and I prize deeply, is an American physicist from the 60s by the name of Richard Feynman. And Richard Feynman actually wrote a book titled The World from a Different Point of View. And he does exactly that. He looks at every single thing in the world in his physics, gravity and how an airplane flies and every goddamn thing you could think of. He looks at it from an entirely absurd and obtuse point of view to just make you go, fuck him. Really? Now I got to think about that? Like,
yep. I can honestly say I've had a few conversations with you and I'm like, fuck. Now I got to think more.
Love it.
Mate,
well, early in this conversation, I mentioned that I had two professors that I valued.
Yeah.
One of them left me with this. Probably the most valuable 2-minute conversation I ever had in my life. He told me, he said, "Oh, you're going to see that lecture. Oh, okay, excellent. I hope you get something from it." He said, "As a matter of fact, what I hope you get from it is more questions than you had when you went in there." And I said, "What?" And he said, if a piece of information is valuable, its value is that it should make you ask 3 new questions. He said, if you hear something, if something goes in your ear hole of value, it will make you think of 3 new questions you previously didn't have. He said, if that doesn't happen, he said, whatever went in your head was actually not as valuable as you think it is. He said, value comes from giving you more questions, not more answers.
That is an absolute brilliant way to start to wrap up this episode, because that is fucking, I love that. Like, that is a beautiful way to look at everything that we do take in. And now before we
big
do
questions now.
Yeah. Now, before we do wrap up, we like to hit you with 10 very rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to mind, which this is going to be very interesting, and I can't wait. Just so the viewers get to know the real Broderick under the hood. Johnny's going to shoot these questions, and they're very random. So I hope you're ready. Let's hit him.
Mr. Broderick, what did you have for dinner last night?
Caprese salad.
What's in the boot of your car?
What's that?
What is in the boot of your car?
A box of drugs, a training bag, and a barbecue grill.
Perfect combination.
Yeah, fucking oath.
The last time you changed your bed sheets?
Never. My wife does that. I wouldn't know how.
What's your middle name?
Fuck. Really? Lorenzo.
Love it. What was your favorite year and why?
This one, because I know just this much more than I did last year.
Nice.
Love that.
What was the first piece of music you ever owned?
Oh, that's a great question. In terms of like either it was given to me or like the first one I went out and like I want that.
The first one you ever owned, given or bought, record, cassette, etc.
The first piece of music that I ever owned was Elvis Presley at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh, wow, classic.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
The last dream you had, do you remember it?
Oh, I do. Yeah. It goes back to that delicious comment.
I love it.
What will you do when you retire, sir?
Stop breathing.
I love that answer.
What's your morning routine?
Coffee, pacing, planning.
What do you think of AI, artificial intelligence?
I hope they'd hurry the fuck up and give me some of the answers I'm looking for.
I love it.
Mate, you're an absolute legend. That is the 10 questions. We're going to wrap up in just a sec, but before we do that, we'll do the whole social media thing. Give yourself a shout out. Where can people find you? How do they find you?
Well, historically, my answer to that was, if you need me, you already know. But now that I'm all commercial and shit, the one good piece of business advice I was given before I embarked on completely fucking up everything I touched in business, the one good piece of information I was given is consistency. Every single thing that is me officially is at TeamEvilGSP. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, new shit, website, everything, TeamEvilGSP.
Love it, mate. We will definitely put it up in the show notes. For those who have listened, thank you so much. Thank you for giving up your time, your Sunday evening over there, if I'm not mistaken, for us. It's been a great pleasure. Super Bowl Sunday evening. Fuck, I feel even more privileged right now. Well, it's actually Valentine's Day over in Australia for us, and we're very honored that you spent it with us. So thank you.
Absolutely.
We love you too.
Fair enough. No, it was a pleasure. I enjoy. I certainly don't say this as anything other than point of fact. 9 out of 10, maybe more like 19 out of 20 people that ask me to be on their podcast, I just simply say no. I've recently said no to some very big names, and I think I've chapped some asses in the industry. But the reality is 99% of the time, I'm just not fucking interested. As soon as the email came through from you guys, I was like, fuck yeah, I love Australia. Of course I'm going to
fucking oath, man. We can't wait to get you back out. And as we said, there's rumors coming back earlier than we thought. So looking to have you back here for some coffee and steak, mate.
It'll be sick.
The every indication is that we're eyeballing May.
Yeah.
Probably an initial destination of Brisbane and then moving west. I don't know how far west I'll get, but the plan is Brisbane and associated areas, and then cut loose to Sydney and parts unknown.
Hell yeah.
Awesome, man. We'll be waiting for you.
Thanks, bro.
Absolutely.